City Council meeting. We will in just a moment have 5 out of 7 councillors present tonight. And if you would all, we'll start. If you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll get rolling here. We had our executive session at 5:15, so if you'd like to see what came out of that, we didn't have a motion, but you'll certainly see those things coming up on the agenda soon. We don't have any public hearings tonight, and so we are going to jump right into our citizen comment period. And this is your chance to, you can either come here and talk to us. We will take email comments. And Kim, if you wouldn't mind giving out that email address where they can submit comments.
K Finnemore, FINNEMORE at presque.me.us.
Thank you very much. So you can send comments there as well. And did we receive any this month? Okay. We do have, is anyone here from the public who would like to address the City Council tonight? Okay, seeing none, we do have something from Councillor Craig.
If you'd give me 5 seconds.
Please.
Four, three, two.
Okay, moving on.
Gentlemen, I want to announce that we have the retirement of 2 of our councillors who have been very diligent and honorable servants of our community, and we're very proud of the work they've done. And one of them has served in multiple capacities for a very long time, including the chairman, Michael Chassie. And Michael has started on his endeavor with the council just after I did, and so it's a little over a decade now of service to the community. So we thank that, and Mike, if you would come forward, we'd like to present you with a gift from the citizens of Presque in honor of your service to our community, and we thank you for everything you've done. He started out baptism by fire with one of his first big projects was helping with the finances and putting together the rec center, which we enjoy today. And without his good leadership, we wouldn't have the quality product and building that we have. And then he's moved on to the Waste Solutions Board and done amazing things all through his career. So, Michael, I'm proud to call you my friend, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And your name?
Thank you. It's been an honor to be part of the organization. Really enjoyed it.
And if our city councilor and our current council chairman, I want to present his plaque for his dedicated years of service from 2019 to 2023. And Jake Shaw, thank you so much. You've led us through the last year here with our council meetings and our agendas. You've been a steady hand and wise counsel. You've been a good friend to everyone in the community, and you've done an excellent job. So we want to thank you for your time, and hope that both of you can be involved with our community as the years go forward and help on boards and in another activity. So thank you so much, Jake.
All right. Thank you for that, Craig. We appreciate it. I know
Welcome.
Mike has certainly been put through his paces since he's been on here, and I've really enjoyed the time that I've spent and the things I've learned from all of the councilors up here. So thank you for sharing that knowledge with me, and I hope to be back sometime in the future. But.
You'll both be missed.
Okay, so we'll close the citizen comment portion of our meeting and move on to the consent agenda. We will In meetings past, we try to take these as one item. And looking through them, is there any will of the council to separate any out, or are we good to take them all in stride? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we consider the consent agenda 1 through 5 as one measure.
So there's a motion by Kevin. Any discussion or a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. All those in favor? Opposed? That is 5-0. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to old business now for our biggest item of the night, which will be our 2024 budget. And I'll let our city manager introduce what's going on with that, where we are, the work we've gotten done to get here, and then we'll have a little discussion.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. This would be meeting number 5. We began on September 27th with a presentation and public hearing from former manager, Mr. Puckett. We met on October 18th with a workshop, November 1st with a second public hearing, November 15th was a workshop, and tonight we're here again for a workshop. You have made some changes as we've gone through. Brad has updated the budget itself with those changes. The latest thing would be the transferring, whether or not we're gonna transfer the facilities maintenance lines over to that budget, the facilities manager's budget, or not. Aside from that, I think everything that you've asked for has been changed, and the budget remains fairly intact with what Martin had originally suggested.
Okay, so we'll open this workshop, I believe, by I'll ask the city council for any comments. We're currently sitting at a budget increase of about 2.3 mils, so we do have some work to do. I know there's been a few ideas floated around, and we have some workshops coming up still. So we definitely like to do what we can to get that, certainly closer to an ease on the taxpayers instead of a burden. Would anyone like to make a comment or suggestion for the budget?
Just that I believe in the best interest of clarity of that line item and of the budget, I think it would make sense for us to move the line items for maintenance into the maintenance department's budget, so that we've tried it without that already, and we've seen a few difficulties, I think, with invoicing and just the going back and forth, because when it's in a bunch of different places, it has a lot more oversight than it necessarily needs, because instead of dealing with one department, that one department's dealing with every other department, and then it comes back. So it's overly complicated because it's new and we haven't fleshed it out. So I think this change would make it easy for the taxpayer to see all of the line items for maintenance in one place, and it would make it easier for the department to operate. So I think those two things would make sense for us to.
So I'll just throw in there that it's not a dollar change, it's just where it's located.
Right.
So it doesn't affect the bottom line here.
So we have kind of a decision to make in front of us tonight. I don't know if any councilors are prepared to make specific changes to budget line items tonight. We do have, I think, 3 more budget workshops scheduled. Tomorrow, I believe, would be the first.
Mm-hmm.
So we can either decide to pass the budget as is, or we can delay and do our workshop tomorrow and see if we can make some changes.
Yeah, I guess I'd prefer to utilize that along with the recent information we got from Brad, and when Brad's here with his computer to do that tomorrow night, and then kind of try to.
So just to set the scene then, Craig, we're about 1.3 million over last year right now. So we're targeting a potential surplus of somewhere between 500 and 700,000 that we could roll to reduce that number to about 500,000. So if the goal is to be flat budget, we gotta, between now and tomorrow night, we gotta find a way to trim about $500,000 out of the expense line.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I think that's the marching orders and stuff. I don't think we're necessarily prepared, especially with 2 people absent tonight. But that's what I'm gonna go sleep on tonight and see if I can find $500,000 somewhere to.
I guess the only thing I'd like to add to that is, in years past, we've found ways to make the budget flat or closer to flat, and I think I'd rather have the department heads and you come to us with some low-hanging fruit that maybe we should consider, that maybe would be less painful for you guys than if we just say, cut this, cut that.
Right. Yep.
I don't know if a day is enough time, but I would imagine you have a better idea of some things that could have a big impact without having a big impact on services.
Sure. So we haven't had those discussions, but we can pull a meeting together tomorrow and try to see if there's anything there. I think most everybody's here tonight, so they're getting the message. And we'll call for a meeting tomorrow. There's one more thing to add in, and that is that as it's budgeted, there's no increase in valuation from 23 to 24 in there. So typically, you've gone back in June and looked to see if there's been any savings so far the first half of the year and made some other adjustments there. So that option still is hanging out there. There may be a chance to lower that.
And
difference.
I guess I would say further, it seems like we've had surpluses the last several years, and I get conservative budgeting, but we want accurate budgeting too. So if we're being too conservative, like in some places, and maybe it's easier to make this balanced than we think, because we're not gonna fill all our our open employment spots overnight, and I guess I just would look towards you guys to help us. And I don't know if I necessarily feel like we need a flat budget, but I also don't wanna see our expenses being 1.3 million higher either.
Right, so right now we're faced with about a 10% increase right now, so I think somewhere between flat and 10% is a reasonable goal, but, Louis, is it reasonable to plan 24 hours to meet here,
Yeah,
or
it's pretty
do we
tight.
need to go 2 days?
2 days is Friday.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a problem getting people together Friday.
Okay,
I really do. We also have a meeting scheduled, but it's the final one, scheduled for the 11th, or at least planned. It's not necessarily scheduled, but that would give us a full week. I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have something for tomorrow night.
okay, Let's shoot for
I
that.
didn't hear a target, but I did hear take a second look and see if there's anything we can take out, is what I
Mike's
heard
got a
from him.
great suggestion, rather than, I'd hate to spend 3 hours talking about a moving target when the target can be more defined before we look at it, so.
And I think it's kind of important, just to remind everyone as you're listening to our budget talks, we do obviously our budget now, and then we set the mill rate later next year. And typically when that happens, we do have those numbers that they were just talking about, like, positions that aren't filled. Obviously, those salaries don't get expensed, and we can use that to reduce the budget. And I believe every year I've been on here, that's usually what happens, is come time, then we get to account for our not expensed expenses, if you will. But we will have that workshop, and it is open to the public if you'd like to come tomorrow night, and it starts at, is it 5:15? 5:15. Okay, so tomorrow night, same place, 5:15, and then we will have more on the budget.
So just one more little thing, and that is, rather than adjourn tonight, we need to table and reconvene tomorrow to finish this meeting. So,
Move to table to December 7th at 5:15.
but, well, we'll do that at the end of the meeting instead of adjournment.
No, we're tabling an agenda item. We can table the item till
Okay.
at the specific date. Trust me.
Okay.
So there's a motion by Kevin, is there a second?
Yep.
Second by Craig, any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, and I spoke a little bit freely at the beginning, I suppose. I think one of our bigger updates tonight is actually the airport architecture update, which we do have up here for everyone to look at. And Louis, I'll let you kind of introduce where we're going to start tonight.
Actually, we're gonna turn that over very quickly to Mr. Wardwell, our airport director, and he has some folks here to give a presentation. Scott, come.
Can you get it on both sides, or?
We haven't had any luck getting it on the screen.
Oh,
Seems to be one or the other.
well, it must be flighty. Put up.
Half is better than none.
Yeah.
The glass is half full, right? Okay, this is kind of we're at 60% design. We're coming back to kind of show you where what the thing looks like. But the kind of the big piece of the business today is we're ready to move on from 60% to 100%.
Scott, there's one quick, we could come out there, and then if you could put it on the other side, the public could all see it as well. I mean, that might be,
Yeah.
we got all you folks in the room that.
Flip it to that side, and then if we wanna come on it, we'll go stand over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're off over here, try to do it over there.
You got it?
Not yet.
Scott, do you want to take a minute maybe to just give us an update on, or a quick history of what's been going on with it while we wait?
Yeah. Essentially where we are right now is we're at 60%. We want to move on to 100% contract drawings. In order to do that, we need to authorize $901,100. Now, since I think we last spoke, the FAA has already awarded, if you will, or announced $7 million for this project. That will more than reimburse the city for the full amount of the design of the project. So this authorization of $901,100 is only temporary at this point, and that the reimbursement is nearly 100% secured. Okay, so we're not out on the limb anymore. We just need some short-term cash flow, I guess. We've worked very hard, I think, to raise a lot of the funds for this project. We have a congressional directed spending that's passed the full Senate for $20.4 million. We also have the $7 million that was part of FAA's fiscal year 22 supplemental, and then we've also applied to the airport terminal modernization program for some additional funding. We've also secured $1 million from the Northern Border Regional Commission, and we'll be looking to move forward with a grant application to the Economic Development Administration. What's kind of holding that up is our other project for the research hangar. We have to have the contractors under contract before we can apply for another EDA grant. So we're still holding with kind of the local share somewhere between $2 and $5 million. We're also talking with TSA about potentially funding the capital cost of their office space. The kind of a lot of the amount that's left for us here locally it's essentially on parts of the terminal that we actually charge rent on. It's a much different discussion than if you're like funding a school or something. There's revenue sources, but might require a short, some sort of loan that we pay off with the revenue from the rents. And with that, so at the end of the discussion, we'd need authorization for another 1,100. But as I say, the grant is secured for that, and we should be in good shape. Now I will turn this over to Sarah, who is the project manager for the terminal, and she will show you the great work that they've been doing.
Thank you, Scott. Welcome.
I'm not sure if you want to move over to the other side
Yeah,
to look at
we just
the-
might, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Scott, for the introduction. So with me today, we also have our civil engineer, Niels from Hoyle Tanner, and my fellow AECOM employees, Bernie Christopher and Sarah Cost, architect and interior designer. So we'll walk you through our latest plans, and I see the screen is not really cooperating. Let's see. The building looks a lot better on my screen, I promise.
This is all part of the show. The anticipation.
It's not even plugged in.
Do you have a lot of applications up on your?
I have a few. I could close out.
That might be what's dragging.
Okay.
Why did you do a live 18-line direct? Oh, there we go. Yes.
Right.
It's still blurry. You might just want to connect it.
I think, let me see if I can open it again.
Normally we just use a tablet that has one application.
Here we go. This looks a little better. It's not up, no, it's lagging again.
Direct plug-in, I'll control, yeah. And you can
Direct plug into.
right to that cord right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me get the.
You need to plug in your phone. Mind if we use this chair? No. I don't know if it's a signal thing, but
Oh.
want to try flipping page and see if it helps? I can already tell us, yeah. let's try 4. Actually 3, try 3. Is that roll? Is there another plug for a microphone on that side? I guess we're gonna do it on the microphone. Yeah, if I can unplug this.
That one might pick her up too.
Okay. Put it back on. Mute. Doesn't have a mute button. Yeah, go back to 3.
I turned it off.
Yeah, we're gonna go back in, start over, go to HDMI 3. HDMI 3? Yep. Yep.
Oh, I can do it on the side.
Apply to, press file, 5 seconds.
Okay, all right, we're back on.
So now is it on just the screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Sarah, while this thing is loading, we're trying to replace the terminal building that was built in the 40s, and here we are 60, 80 years later, I guess, whatever. And so it's worth the wait to see what you're proposing, so thanks for your patience in putting this
Well,
together.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't
Oh,
work.
it didn't work, okay.
Project.
All right, I will project. All right, so, seems like this is working now. So we'll, walk you through our building and give you an overview, and then we have some interior and exterior renderings to give you a look and feel of what the final product will be. So I'm just gonna zoom in here. This is our first floor plan. So what we're proposing is a timber frame building. The exterior, which you'll see shortly, is mostly a brick facade with some metal panel and then a standing seam metal roof. The shape of this building is pretty traditional for an airport. It's divided here by Page North being the land side, so the public side, and Page South being the air side. And then on the left, we have primarily our departing passenger functions, and on the right, we have primarily our arriving passenger functions. So, starting plan north, passengers would enter the building through this central vestibule entrance over here. What's shown in this tan color is just open circulation space, and then we've got some lounge seating along the front facade of the building on both sides. In green over here is the ticketing area, so queuing and 3 ticket counters. This bag belt behind the ticket counters is connected to the bag screening room over here. And then this brings your bags out to the outbound bag room, which is a pull-through room for the tugs. In pale green over here, we have the airline offices, what we call the ATO space. So the airline has direct access into the bag screening and the outbound bag room, and then they also have a door right here out to the apron. In the middle of the building is our security checkpoint. So in blue here, you can see one checkpoint lane. We do have some space on the right here to add a second lane in the future if the airport does grow into a second airline or, yeah. So, and then in teal green, adjacent to the checkpoint are the TSA offices. They have some supervisor stations over here for oversight for the checkpoint. And then also next to the checkpoint is the exit line lane. So this is where arriving passengers would come back into the building and come out to the public side. So basically passengers would go through the checkpoint and then they would enter into the hold room lounge area, which is this pale blue area over here. So there's a variety of seating types over here, all looking out onto the airfield. What you see in purple, both over here and over here, are concessions. So there'll be some vending machines and some tables for sitting at and enjoying a snack. In brown over here, we have both landside and airside toilet rooms, men's and women's. And then over on the right here, this is where the gate podium would be. So when it's time to board the flight, passengers would queue up in this area over here, scan their boarding passes, and then exit the building out onto the apron where they would go and board the flight. Arriving passengers, as I mentioned, would come back in through the same door and turn right to go directly out the exit lane to the public side of the building again, where then they can turn right and go to the baggage claim area over here. So the bag claim, you'll see this is directly connected to the inbound bag room, which is this gray space over here. So those are kind of the central passenger functions of the building. And then what we also have on this level in purple over here, this is the rental car center. So you'll notice they have a separate entrance and exit from the exterior of the building. So if there's any times when the terminal is closed, people can still access the rental car to pick up or return a car. Over on the right side of the building, we have a staircase and an elevator. So this also has a separate entrance that's separate from the terminal building, and that takes you up to level 2. So I'll flip over there. So level 2, this is primarily the airport management offices, which are shown in purple over here. There's a boardroom, which will hopefully also be used for some community functions or meetings, a spacious lobby area, and then a couple offices over here for the management. In this pink space over here, we have the Air Museum. So those of you who are familiar with the existing airport, you'll know that there's a great exhibition of the history of the Presque Air Base. So that is we're planning to relocate that to the new terminal building. Also some toilet rooms up here, and then over on the left is really just building support spaces, mechanical, electrical, and a couple additional TSA offices up here as well. This beige corridor on level 2 is open to below, so if you come up here, you'll have a view over the whole entrance and public side of the building. We'll see in the renderings it's really quite a great space. All right, so let me show you what this looks like. Oh, sorry, before I show you the renderings, we'll just talk a little bit about the site plan. So this is the airport drive over here. You can see in white is where the existing terminal is. So we're locating this new building directly adjacent to the existing terminal. We will have a main entrance over here. So typically passengers would drive in through this entrance, and then they would have the option to wrap around into this drop-off lane or take a bypass lane past the terminal building, and then this big parking lot over here is the passenger short-term and long-term parking. There will be a few electric vehicle spaces as well that we're incorporating into our design. And then there's some other short-term parking and specifically some museum parking over here for convenience. Over on the left side of the building, we have the rental car parking. So they have a pull-in over here, and then they would exit out this side. And then this lot up here is the employee parking. We're trying to keep all of the building services on the left side of the building. So we have a backup generator, dumpsters. There's an airside access gate over here. And then we will have some rental car, quick turnaround spots directly adjacent to the building. On the right side of the building, we also have a service animal relief area and a smoking shelter. So this is kind of more the passenger amenities, which we're keeping over on the right side. In the middle here, you'll see we've reserved some space for a future Air Museum monument. That is something that we're hoping to see in the future. So this is what the front of the building looks like, and I think from the last time we presented at 30%, the building looked pretty similar. It's obviously been developed and grown a little bit, but this materiality and the look and feel of it has largely remained the same. So we have a mostly brick exterior. We're taking a lot of these design elements from the really traditional Maine industrial architecture with the arch windows and the rustic brick look. We also have some metal panel, which is really great for the control of snow and rain in the winter. This front entrance is a traditional gable style that will shed snow and rain off of either side, and then we have a large carport in front of the main entrance for that drop-off area. There's also a canopy on both sides of the building along the sidewalk that will also cover cars that drop off or pick up passengers along the road over here. You'll see these glass corners on either side. Those are those additional entrances. On the left side here would be the entrance to take the stairwell up to the Air Museum, and then on the right would be an entrance to get directly into the car rental as well. This is what the approach drive looks like. So if you are coming in the front entrance and looking to drop off a passenger, this is what that view would look like. The door over here is where the rental car facility is, and then the main entrance over here. On the inside of the building, you can see the timber frame is giving the space a lot of warmth. We have a very neutral tile floor, and then mostly white walls right now, but we're working with the Air Museum and with Scott to kind of come up with some plans for exhibits and graphics on these walls to really brighten the space up. So when you walk in, the first thing that you see right in front of you is the checkpoint with some prominent signage above it. Next to it over here is the ticketing counters, and then in the distance back here is where that rental car facility is. On the other side of the entrance, you'll see the bag claim hall over here. This doorway through here takes you up the stairs to the Air Museum, which the entrance is up here. And then this door over here is the exit lane, so arriving passengers would come through this door and immediately see the bag claim device. Departing passengers that go through the checkpoint would walk into the hold room, and this is kind of the first view that they get of that hold room. So here's the lounge seating in front, and then this big arch window looks out over the airfield and Mount Katahdin in the distance. On the left here is the gate area, so this is where passengers would line up to board the plane and exit kind of around the corner to the exterior. What you're not seeing on the right is where the concession would be, and on the left is where the toilet rooms would be. All right, so as Scott mentioned before, we have just completed 60% design. We submitted that on December 1st. So right now TSA is doing a review of our documents, as is Scott and we are planning to move forward to 90% final design by early February. And then from there, we would kind of clean up our documents, take 4 weeks to put together the construction 100% set of documents. And so that would come in early March, about a month later. And then from there, we would put the project out to bid. And the goal here is to start construction by June or July of 2024. So I think I can open it up to questions. I can go back to some of the plans if anyone wants to see anything again or has any questions about the renderings or.
Wonderful. Great, Sarah. I'll start on layer one. The elevation of the floor one.
Mhm.
So maybe the first concept plan. It doesn't look like there's a lot of grade change from the driveway to the building itself. Maybe subtle ramps. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, this is gonna primarily all be flat. I think Niels is working through the site plan. There are some areas that we'll have to fill in and flatten out, but the site is mostly flat, so.
Yeah, the building itself, everything on level one is at the same elevation. There'll
Yeah.
be a 6-inch curb with the drop-off lane.
So where I'm going with that is how do we board the plane? So right now, there's no jetway or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to incorporate a jetway in the future, this plan doesn't work with that.
So
How do you, so if you had a jetway in the future, how do you accommodate that?
yeah, so what we would do here, and we have plenty of space on this side of the building, is we would have to do a fixed walk. So that would essentially be an enclosed ramp that would get you up about, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet or so, and that would connect to a boarding bridge. So at any point in the future, that could easily be added off the side of the building.
That was a concern you had, so how do you board the plane?
Yeah, as we worked through this, we designed it so a jet bridge can be added at any time when the airport sees fit. As Sarah was saying, the fixed bridge is something we do all the time. We had explored the idea of putting a ramp inside the building, but this is a better option because what it does is gives you ultimate flexibility for a ground boarding operation or adding that fixed bridge into the jet bridge in the future.
I know that's a budget consideration and it was part of the
Mhm.
design and, I think people they need to know that up front that this doesn't include that right now, so.
Yeah.
And we don't have one now either, there are gonna be people that are gonna say, well, why don't we have it in the future? And so we've been tossed certain numbers that it was, 20% more money to put
Mhm.
And I think that should be public.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that there is a budget consideration and that we're not doing that right now and these are the reasons, and this is how much money it is. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. No, we had numerous discussions with Scott and the committee and talked about, the options to have a jet bridge now or not have one or have the potential to add one in the future. And I think at this stage, it made the most sense to not include it with, the caveat that we're designing this in a way that there wouldn't have to be any drastic renovation to this building itself to add one in the future. And
Okay, I'll talk some more. Food, we're talking about vending machines, no
Yeah.
sit-down restaurant, no opportunity in here for future food or anything like that, right?
so we do have, we do have the space for a cafe or some kind of future concession to come in here. At the moment, it is just going to be vending machines. I think Scott maybe could talk to this more. In the past, hasn't been a huge success rate with other concession options in the terminal, but it's definitely something that could also be added in the future.
This is actually a question that I get a good bit. the reason why there isn't a restaurant in the current terminal is because the market didn't support it. Essentially, as you think about how most people interact with our airport, usually what happens is they try to get there, you know, an hour and 15 minutes before departure. They might stop downtown and get their favorite coffee or whatever, but really what they're planning on doing is arriving in time to go through security, board the airplane, and depart. When they arrive into Presque, typically they want to grab their bags and head out. When I first started, we actually had a cafe in the current terminal. It did horrible. Okay, and why? Why is that the case? Because people typically aren't waiting around there unless there's a delay or something like that. If you could put a restaurant in there that would draw from downtown, you might have a decent shot at it. But currently, right now, we just don't see the market, the market there to support a sit-down restaurant. And so right now, we're talking vending machines. If we see an opportunity where that would change. Obviously, on the unsecure side, there's a good bit of area there in purple. There's also some sitting area and that kind of thing. There could be an opportunity to add something there. But really what you wanted inside security. And that's the great thing about the design of this terminal is we can easily add to the drawing south there, if you will. So if we had somebody who was interested in operating a restaurant approach us, there is the potential to add that, certainly.
It's not a criticism that it's not in there, I just wanted it to be clear that that is not on this plan right now.
And you also have to remember everything that we designate as concession or where a tenant goes,
That's a rental space.
FAA participates nada in it. And it's not only the space itself. Can you go to the second all that mechanical space, they actually prorate that. Okay, so if you have like 18% of the building that isn't FAA eligible, that also will apply to the mechanical space and even to the generator, the backup generator. So we'll be on the hook for 18% of the cost of the backup generator. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
That's great.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
All right.
We're gonna head back.
Let me move my charger.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. It's certainly going to be a beautiful building, there's no doubt about that, and people flying in will absolutely recognize it. As a staple of Presque Isle, and hopefully it can serve us for years and years to come. Moving on, if there are no other comments, we'll go into new business, and that'll be agenda item number 8, which is waiver of foreclosure. And Louis, I'll let you start with this.
Sure, thank you. This is an annual thing. We have some properties that the taxes have remained unpaid for the duration of the lien process, and they're now ready to be foreclosed on automatically unless we waive them. And the properties on the list in front of you are all properties that we feel we should not take ownership on. So the recommendation is that you waive them.
Okay. Any comments from the city council on the items in front of us? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
The one not in your packet is,
We had a chance to look over it,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
oh, that's where the new motion is.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the city council authorize the city treasurer to waive the foreclosure on the properties listed on the attachment A if payment on the 2021 tax lien is not received by the city prior to close of business on December 15th, 2023 at 4:30 p.m.
motion by Craig. Your second?
That's the same thing. Second.
All right, moved by Craig, second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And 5-0. We'll move on to item number 9, which is the annual appointment list for January 2024. This is a number of board seats that, you know, we always look at. There are numerous different opportunities for citizens, councilors, and city employees as well to participate in a variety of different ways. And Louis, I'll kind of let you talk about what's expiring, what's available.
Sure. So the first page, of course, is all of your council appointments, and you know, there's the chair and the deputy chair. But then we also generally have 2 councilors attending all the other meetings that go on. Rustic Waste Solutions. There's an audit committee, finance committee, Development Fund Board of Trustees, PI Downtown Revitalization Committee, the Downtown TIF Advisory Committee, and the Industrial Council Board of Directors. Usually 2 councilors each sit on those boards. And it's an annual appointment in January, so it's amongst you folks to decide who will sit where, and usually it's a volunteer basis. So
Thank you.
it's nice to see all the councilors, or at least it's nice to see it spread out.
Absolutely. So if you are interested as just a citizen of Presque Isle in any of these boards or appointments, there are, as I said, a number of vacancies and a number of different types of committees and boards you can join. So if you're interested in that, this information is online on the website. You can call City Hall and we can get that to you. So if you're interested, certainly take advantage of the time now. And as far as the rest of them, I would just remind the councilors that are going to be here next month to take a look at this. The new councilors coming in, take a look and see if there's anything that catches your eye as well. Any other comments from City Council?
Just the non-council citizens at large that can apply for expiring terms would include, among others, that there is the Airport Advisory Board, there's 3 expiring terms. Assessment Review, there's 2 expiring. Audit Committee has a vacancy. Presque Isle Development Fund Board of Trustees, there we go, that's a tongue twister. 2 expiring. Downtown Revitalization Committee, done some tremendous work the last few years. They're responsible for many things that you see downtown, including banners and lights, the Christmas lights, and among many other things. There's a vacancy there. So TIF Advisory Committee, if you want to jump into that. There are the Library Board of Trustees, there's some alternates, and the Planning Board has some alternates as well. So a wide variety of things for people to be engaged with. If you've got an interest in any of the things that I've talked about, or if you have a question about that, come see me or some of the other counselors around town, or see Lewis and Kim, and they'll explain to you, put your hat in the ring, and we'd love to have the opportunity to perhaps have you join some of these groups in January. So thanks for the time to let me plug those.
Absolutely, thank you. So if there are no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item 10, which is to schedule a public hearing to repass ordinances due to the sunset provision. Now what that means is our city operates on a number of different ordinances, and typically every 4 years they expire. I believe there are some exceptions, and when that comes up, we schedule a hearing for the public again to either comment online at the email address that was provided in the beginning, or come to the next meeting, or whenever we schedule those public hearings to talk about the ordinance. You can read those ordinances right online as well, and it's a great opportunity to make tangible change in the community if you see one of our ordinances expiring and you see a way it can be improved. So we would certainly invite you to join us. Other than that, are there any council comments? Or not, I would entertain a motion.
So we're scheduling a public hearing to repass ordinances, and as Chairman Shaw said, most of these ordinances are 3 years. Automatically, they sunset after 3 years. So that means that any group of people, they pass something, and if the next group doesn't like it, they just let them sunset, they go away. In most cases, they're renewed. So what we're talking about this evening, if you don't happen to have a copy of the agenda, is illegal dumping, Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code, residential building codes, to 1 and 2 family dwellings, a personnel ordinance, a life safety code, and a solid waste code. So these are the ones that are currently scheduled to expire. We'll be holding a public hearing about this at the next council meeting. So we're giving you a notice tonight that we're going to talk about this in the future. And if you've got comments, or if you want to research this, I'm sure it's on the website. If not, we can give you copies of that. Come see Kim or Lewis, and we'll be happy to give you guys copies of that stuff. So, thank you.
Is there a motion to schedule a public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Our next agenda item, number 11, will be the airport car share agreement. And Lewis, are you going to speak about this, or Scott? We definitely welcome you
I
up.
can give an overview, and if there's questions, we can call Mr. Wardwell up. But basically, it's very similar to the agreement they have in place, but it's a different type of service. He describes it as like Uber or Lyft without a driver. And basically, they will have a spot designated at the airport for a car to be sitting and waiting, and people will rent or lease that car using an app, just like you do an Uber or a bed and breakfast, or what, B&B. It's just a cleaned up version that it specifically incorporates that service. So, yeah, if you've got any questions, Scott can, I'm sure, answer them. He called it a pretty minor addition.
Scott, yeah, come on up, please. Any questions from the city council?
So, in essence, is this kind of like the little bikes that are on the streets down in Boston and places? You put your credit card in, you can use it, and then you rent it for a little while and bring it back?
It's
Kind of like that?
it's more like Uber without a driver. Instead of Uber, it's actually called Tora, and then local business folks can actually become part of that network, and so it's an apps driven thing, just like with Uber. You know, if you want somebody to pick you up, you get on the Uber app and you schedule somebody to pick you up. In this case, you're scheduling just the car, and the car be up to 2 or 3 cars parked there at the airport, and they just they schedule it on the app, and as a customer, you go out to the car, you get into the car, and you drive off.
So can anyone who's interested, any business, just come to you and say, hey, we want to park a car here? Do they, or is it strictly through the app?
Yeah, basically, there's one gentleman in Caribou, Brian Anderson, who is doing this locally, and we originally were waiting for Toro to kind of do a blanket agreement. Portland is as well, but it looks like they're going to be quite a while before they get to the smaller airports, even a Portland, Maine. And this gentleman was pretty anxious to get started, and I held him off probably 9 months, a year, because this was actually in federal court. Toro thought that they could go to Boston Logan and operate without any kind of agreement and stuff like that. And Portland is actually under a cease and desist order until Toro is willing to write an agreement with them. But anyway, in the interest of the local business person trying to get something started, I took the off-airport car rental agreement and kind of modified it for that. In these things, you always have to be careful about the impact that you're going to have on current tenants. In this case, this is a direct competition to the car rental companies, and we're very fortunate to have 3 car rental companies, and they stood by us through COVID-19. So, yep. Excuse me.
I can answer any questions if they have anything specific to it.
Oh, yeah, please come on up.
Yeah, this is
Welcome.
This is Brian. If you'd like to ask
Yeah,
some specific questions.
if you wouldn't mind, I mean, I'd like to just kind of hear a little bit more about how it works and the logistics behind getting it set up.
Sure. I created an LLC for this, and I'm just going through the Turo app. It's just like Airbnb, really.
Okay.
It's just with cars instead of houses. The agreement, Scott and I, it's the off-site rental agreement, which I'll be covering the fees out of my profit margin. Plus, I'm paying Turo their share as well. Since they, again, are focusing on the smaller airports this time. They are at Logan right now, and they have, big marketing posters and everything at the airport. It's really throughout the country and the world. It's a popular app. I've used it in Florida and Boston, New York. It's very easy to use, just on your phone. You can go through all the different vehicles. People have the personal vehicles on there. They aren't using them. You might as well make some money on the side with their personal vehicles. And it's insured through Turo. So if something happens, it's not on my insurance. Turo covers it. And it's a pretty neat concept.
Interesting.
So you get an app on your phone, you schedule a car, and then if you have one available, then they can rent it when they get to the airport for a certain length of time, or?
As much time as they'd like to. I mean, it's like a reservation. They put in a reservation. I want it from point A to point B, day 1 to day 10, whatever it may be.
But it comes back there.
And it comes back there, and they'll drop it off, and there'll be like a lockbox with a combination they'll be given to get into the vehicle with a key and take it and drop it off and go from there.
Okay. Awesome. Any other questions? Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one thing before I leave. Back on the airport terminal, we will need authorization to expend more funds. The 901,100. So.
So what is this off ramp number what right now?
I think it's off ramp number 4.
So we've gone by 3 so far. So
Yeah.
we're at 4, and this is 900,000. That'll
Yeah.
bring us up to how much to date if this goes by?
I think that that will bring us up to 2,338,500.
And just for the motion, what was the exact dollar amount you need?
The exact amount is $901,100.
Okay.
Must be on number 7.
So let's do the motion for item number 11 quickly, and then we'll jump back and do the motion for the airport as well. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion on item 11.
So I move to authorize the airport director to sign the attached car share agreement with Byron Anderson of BTA Enterprises.
Motion by Craig. Second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, so do we have verbiage for a motion, or Lewis, are you comfortable if we authorize Scott or the airport to?
Yeah, we don't have it on a memo, but,
Okay, then I guess I'll move that we authorize Scott Wardwell, our airport director, to expense $901,100 toward the airport project, the airport terminal project.
And not spend it at McDonald's.
Please. So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Sure, second.
Second, motion by Jake, second by Craig. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Moving on to our last agenda item of the night, which is the net zero budget for the Industrial Council for 2023 forward. I know we've spoken about this over a number of years, and Mike kind of hammered it home this year, but basically the Industrial Council for many years has made the city money and is continuing to bring businesses and prosperity to our community, and it benefits all of Aroostook County. And I believe our intent is for them to retain their earnings, essentially, instead of giving it back to the city, so they can then turn that profit and benefit the city even more than we may be able to directly in the Industrial Council. But Lewis, is there anything you'd like to say on that?
you've summed it up quite well there. Tom is here, the executive director, if you want to hear more.
Yeah, please.
Good evening, council. So, you did a great job summing it up. At the end of the day, we just think it's a next step in our endeavors up there, is to be fiscally responsible for everything we do, operate it as much as a business-like as we can. If we don't make our goals to pay back the city, it actually gets paid back, you're made whole. So the net zero is, even when you're doing good, you get to keep it, but when you're doing poor, you still gotta repay it. I think it's a pretty fair thing. It also kind of gets rid of a couple stickler points that maybe with some other departments or whatever, whenever we ask for our operational or capital budgets, sometimes those monies, if they're not used, they get turned back into the general fund or whatever. And sometimes that creates what I'll call panic buying at the end of the month or whatever it is. So you're now more responsible to not go out and buy a purple golf cart at the end of the year because you're gonna lose it. You'll just retain those funds. And our intentions are totally to use those funds as they have been set up to either pay back debt, work on existing renovation projects, or with authorization from both councils to enter into a new project. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the City Council?
No, I think that's perfectly reasonable, Tom, and you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you. Just for a point, this year we'll probably, this is not a big ask. This is like $20,000 and $30,000 annually. This is not big money. We're not returning $1 million that's gonna come right out of the budget. It's almost infinitesimal. But it does allow us to put it into a budget that we have depleted over the years with all
Right.
the new buildings we've done.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd move to establish a net zero monetary return policy between Presque Industrial Council and the City of Presque. Any revenue generated beyond the funds needed to reimburse the city for annual appropriations for operations capital reserve and debt be placed in the Industrial Council reserve. And any shortfall will be reimbursed to the city, thus resulting in a net zero return to the City of Presque annually. The existing policy for expending money from the reserve will remain unchanged. The amount of the transfer is to be established during the final month of each year, beginning December of '23.
Motion by Craig, second by Mike. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. So that brings us to the end of our agenda tonight, and I would turn it over to Lewis for a manager's report.
Sure. So a couple of things to report on, and a couple of things have come in since the agenda was prepared. Number one item that has any money tied to it is a grant opportunity that I believe you've talked to with the police department before. Now it's Deputy Chief Hayes has an opportunity to apply for a grant for $32,000 for a canine. The monies are authorized to buy the dog, set up training with one of the officers that he would choose, or Chief Kelly would choose, and there's the list. The training for the handler, the cruiser conversion, an outdoor kennel at the handler's home, miscellaneous $2,000 for basically toys, collars, bite sleeves, exercise balls. Comes with a canine bulletproof vest, 3 years worth of dog food, 3 years worth of veterinarian care, a little bit of reserve for some contingencies that may show up, and also some reserve for future canine training skills. So it's $32,000. It gets the city back with having a canine, and it's a dual-purpose canine for both drugs and tracking. So, I don't know if you want to hear any more from Deputy Chief Hayes, but that's the sum of it.
So would you be looking for a motion from us tonight to authorize the signing of the grant?
At least approval, yes.
Are there any questions from the city council for our deputy chief?
No,
I think we're all
I think
set.
we're okay. I
Okay.
move we approve his request to sign the grant.
Motion by Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
So the second thing that occurred, I think Kevin, Dana, Harley, all met with DOT, and it was, one of the discussions was the traffic, truck traffic still on Academy Street. I believe about a year ago, you authorized Martin to write a letter to the trucking companies, asking them to try to find their way out to the bypass, and they're asking if we can resend another letter. It helped, but it hasn't cured, so we're all good with that. The Ford Taurus we talked about last.
Oh, Louis, one
month.
second. Go ahead, Jeff.
That might be something that would be a good idea to maybe do annually about this time of year, just whether it's prompted or not, but
Yep.
just a kind of just a constant refresher.
At least reminders, yep,
Yep.
sure, absolutely. The Ford Taurus we talked about last month, you did authorize me to find a educational purpose for that, and we did. SAD one owns it now in the technology department. They were very pleased. They probably won't put it on the road, but it'll be in the mechanic's shop, and they will take apart, examine, put together, and they have a car, so.
Fantastic.
We've received a very, very nice gift. MMG, Dana, Tom have been working with DOT and Harley to get sidewalks for some time on Carmichael and Rice. And MMG has come to the plate with a $50,000 gift to the city towards those sidewalks, and that's gonna happen next summer. So I believe Carmichael is gonna get concrete with the edging, and Rice will get a white stripe, a widened out hot top, and a white stripe to separate the travel lane. Also, there's a good effort underway here within the city to get planned and ready for the eclipse next summer. That's gonna be a large event, and there's a lot of work going into planning events here. Kim Smith, our can't say her title. Kim Smith is working with the schools, educationally wise, to bring some good pieces together for them. So that's gonna be a big event for us. And then the last thing is just to mention December 2nd. The city was just alive. That's all there is to it. The tree festival, the trains, the craft fair, and the parade all came together, and the city was just absolutely booming. There's no two ways about it. Most of those events were put on by outside entities that we had, we worked the streets and those things, but that's about it. And the city really got a great boost out of that, so. Good thanks to all those folks. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, and this coming weekend, as it's on your list here, I'll let you talk about the Wintergreen event, but but also the Presque Historical Society has their annual Victorian Christmas at the Esty House on 3rd Street. That'll be open on Wednesday, on Friday night and Saturday night, and 6 to 9 p.m. And there's a small charge for that, but that'll be another good family Christmas event if you're out
What
around.
day was that?
This Friday
Oh,
night.
okay.
This Friday night and this Saturday night, 6 to 9 p.m. on 3rd Street at the Vera Esty Museum.
Excellent. Thank you. So that concludes the manager's report, and we have a few announcements to make tonight before we adjourn. So we'll start with the Wintergreen Express will be held on December 8th and 9th. The city has the following employment vacancies: a police officer, a police chief, public works truck driver, rec department administrative assistant, rec department custodian, airport line service technician. And we also have the following vacancies for boards and committees: assessment review, we have 2 one-year alternates; audit committee, we have 1 4-year member; zoning board, we have 1 3-year member and 1 1-year alternate; rec and parks, we have 2 1-year alternate; downtown revitalization, we have 1 4-year member. Please see the city clerk for an application or apply right online. And lastly, the next scheduled meeting of the Presque Isle City Council will be on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall. Our public meeting starts at 6, but we do go into executive session at 5:15. And then I would just add that we also have our budget meeting tomorrow night that you are more than welcome to come to, and that will be here as well at 5:15.
So that's where I was trying to lead earlier, is we need to just table this meeting for tonight and continue tomorrow night for notice purposes, so.
Okay. So you'd like, so I guess
So
I'll,
I move to table this meeting until tomorrow night with the budget meeting, and just don't eat dry toast or crackers before you come, because you'll be wicked dry after the meeting.
we got a motion by Craig. Is there a second? Second by Jeff. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you, everyone, very much for coming tonight, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No, we're tabling till tomorrow night.